But we're allocating.
Yeah, space.
Oh, man.
All right.
Very word. Okay.
Katie's out of town and Katie's Souls is, oh, them, the people.
Good to know. You guys ready or you guys still trying to record?
All right, I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser's Board of Trustees meeting. Sorry for starting a little late, 6:02 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please? All right, I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser's Board of Trustees meeting. Sorry for starting a little late, 6:02 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Adam Quicklin,
Peggy Smith. Julie White.
Louis Gregory.
And Brian Cirkvenick. Could I have an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda that includes minutes for March 5th, 2025 and resolution 2025-0307 C&L Water Solutions Incorporated?
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak to the board about something not on the agenda, you have 3 minutes to approach what's that thing called? Podium. Or if you're online, you can raise your hand. Okay. Moving on to discussion and possible action regarding the treasurer's report. Lori.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Lori Waters, Financial Director. Are we ready?
Gotta move the people. There you go. There's the three.
Okay. Again, everybody's familiar with my overview, statement of funds, sales tax, short-term tax revenue, and remote sellers. So for February 1st, our revenues are holding pretty steady. Did a little bit of recovery from January because the grant reimbursements were received from DOLA. We'll be preparing and sending Q1 2025 requests by the end of March. Right now, there's no anticipated interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve this year. But I wanted to make sure people understand Colorado Trust rates reflect the reinvestment of dividends and other earnings. It's not just the Fed. Many factors affect the performance of Colorado Trust, including changes in market conditions, interest rates, and in response to other economic, political, or financial developments. Although Colorado Trust has a very good history of being careful and not going wild or rolling the big dice with your funds. So we're in pretty good shape there. So moving on to your sales tax revenue. This came as a little bit of a surprise. Your sales tax revenue for February, it's the February collection of the January sales tax, is 12.6% higher than 2024. It almost matched December sales tax revenue. Wow, I did not see that coming. And so, the taxes are, the January tax is only 3.1% less than the December sales tax collection. So they were just neck and neck, and obviously a little bit higher than the same time last year. So good start to the year again. The short-term revenue tax, that's 17% of your total revenue. And the 2025 is 10.79% higher than 2024. So a really strong performing month of January. Busy and kept things going. Then we go on to the remote sellers. They seem to be following the trend. Your remote sellers they kind of went down to about 5% of total revenue. And you can kind of see the trend. We had some Christmas purchasing, and then we dropped back down in February, return, who knows. But this February is 1.18% lower than the February of 2024. Not big concern, but just an interesting trend that they're running. So, anybody questions?
Yeah, Lord, can you share the investment portfolio with the trustees so we see, where our money is being held in investment and invested? And does it have to be through the Colorado Trust?
Colorado Trust is chosen. I've had several others approach me. Colorado Trust is the one that, number one, the auditors, they just have the continuing great performance. Some of the newer ones, I felt a little concerned about how new they were getting into running some of these big funds. I will ask Brett Parsons again. I am partial to Colorado Trust because of the customer service and the attention that Brett Parsons offers the town of Fraser. I mean, we're not considered just our little municipality. He treats us very well and is very responsive to anything I ask him for. I'm actually attending a remote economic workshop tomorrow morning, and he happens to be the speaker. But I can ask him to what he can send me, because basically I'm just seeing the totals and the interest that we're earning every month. But I can ask him about that and see if we can get
Do you
that.
get a monthly report or anything
Yes, I get a monthly statement every month.
of what is being invested in, not just a total?
No, I just get totals, but I can check with him and see if I can get that report.
Okay.
Because my report is just basically a reconciliation report. I really have not looked for a bigger one, but I'm sure there's one in there.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see that. I mean, the Fed fund rate doesn't really have much to do with, the return on treasuries and other investments. It's not. That's
Well, we're at about a 4.49 yield,
Mhm.
monthly yield. So I think they are pretty close to within what we could get elsewhere. But I will ask him for the portfolio or where to find it, because I have not ventured in that far into Colorado Trust. And I'll try and put that together for you.
Okay, that'd be great. I'd be interested to see where our money is being invested, and I'm sure they're doing a good job. I just, be curious as to where where those funds are being invested. Are they invested in treasuries? Are they invested in, mutual funds, ETFs? I mean, how are they doing it? And
Sure. Well,
That's our
I'll,
primary responsibility, fiduciary.
we are fiduciaries, yes. So,
well,
yeah,
I
but-
will definitely get that information.
okay.
And
thank
Laura,
you.
you said for the last several months, we've made about 70,000 interest per month.
No, just this last month.
Yeah.
Just in February, we made $70,000 in interest.
$70,000 on 20 million?
20 million.
Was it, I don't know right offhand what that return rate is. but-
0.003 I did earlier. That's
Okay.
it's not a big return.
Yeah,
but
if you
it-
could ask for
Sure.
that, at least, detailed portfolio of where those funds are being invested, I think we shouldn't just accept, the total as being, I would like to see more detail around that.
Okay. I will get that from him tomorrow or from the website. Like I said, I haven't looked that closely at it. I just worked through the totals and making sure that I do all my journal entries so that I make sure that our sales tax and everything are received correctly, because that's where we receive a lot of those funds.
Lori, on the short-term rental revenue, can we attribute that increase to occupancy, or is it more units signed up, or
I think
Yeah.
that was
or a mix of?
what I see is occupancy.
So
That's the
we're
occupancy.
filling the
Yeah,
doors
we're
that are
filling
available.
short-term
It's not,
rentals.
there's
Yeah, no,
10%
'cause-
more units of it being rented, or
The payments that we receive are split out to where, they are paying their short-term rental fee, but then we get the nightly rental
Mhm.
rate. So that's all straight across the short-term rental. So we get a total, I distribute it where it needs to be distributed, but no, those are the actual rentals. Full, short-term rentals.
Okay.
So people are in 'em.
So that rate, 70,000 on 2 million, that'd be 3.5% in 1 month, times 12 would be like
That's not.
42% return. Something's not right there. That may be for the whole year.
So it's on 2 million or?
20 million.
Yeah, it's 20 million. You're zero off, I think.
Yeah, I got 0.0035%.
0.00. Anyway, I'd just like to see more detail around it and see.
Sure. I'll look
Okay.
at it.
Sure.
Any other questions for
20.
Lori? Okay. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks.
We'll move on to resolution 2025-0308, authorizing the town manager to sign, distribute, and enforce the IPP compliance letter. This is Michael and Chris Thorne.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Michael Brack, Fraser Town Manager. What's before the board this evening is a compliance letter that we have drafted with our water attorney and who also is our attorney for the JFOC matters for the town of Fraser. And Chris Thorne is also our water attorney. So what's here before you is the result of a lot of different things that have worked over the last several years. But just specifically looking back at a couple of violations that we've had in the last couple of years with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Following those violations, we've been looking at trying to identify where the issues are, where we are seeing these higher levels of ammonia that is being discharged from our plant into the Fraser River. Following a research report and sampling that was been taken with a lot of different local commercial users, to include restaurants and Safeway and bakeries and breweries and distilleries, among some other large composite samples of large residential areas. A report was published by Tetra Tech, who is the consulting engineering firm for the Joint Facilities Oversight Committee. And we have been working with them closely, and they have been doing a lot of research as far as what are other towns' experiences, how they have addressed these issues with their plant, because the majority of mountain communities, especially, are treating their wastewater and then discharging back into a river. So with the report that is up in the packet as Exhibit 1, the report was published in June of 2024, which reflected their findings based on their research, a lot of on-site visits to a lot of local businesses, breweries and distilleries, and the sampling results from the sampling that we got from each of the breweries and distilleries. And from that, we've been working through, okay, we think we've identified the problem. We've been working since November of last year to work with all the local breweries and distilleries to assist them in side stream capturing their production waste from their brewing and distilling operations. And for Fraser, and that's what this is only about. What's before you is only for Fraser Sanitation District brewers and distilleries. We have been successful in getting everyone 100% side stream capturing all their waste. And we have that in full swing and full motion. We had everybody at 100% starting on February 1st. And it has been a process, and it's been a lot of trial and error, and it's been also some difficulties in communications about the concerns raised by some of the local businesses and establishments. So what this is really the culmination of that. We have worked through a compliance period, really a voluntary compliance with our local brewers and distillers. They've done a great job working with us and identifying what these issues are and what parts of their process, identifying what they are actually putting down the sewer that is impacting our ability to treat wastewater at the plant. And we've had good relationships working through getting everyone side stream capturing, getting them the initial equipment that they need to do this, and having a contractor involved through this pilot program as we continue to figure out the best means to address this issue long term and short term, and have the goal to have very minimal impact to existing brewers and distilleries. And we've been working through that process. So what this is based on the last inspection that we had at the plant, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, they very much noted that we need to have an industrial pretreatment program, that we need to implement that, we need to take care of it, and we need to show initiative on that. Otherwise, we could be subject to fines, as well as the industrial users that we've had concerns with from that report could also be fined by the state as well. So being proactive with this, we've been able to draft this letter. While we've been successful in the front with getting everyone's side stream capturing, we have had some difficulties in communication for getting their production numbers, which is a requirement within this letter. And so we've drafted this letter, one, to provide that assurance to the CDPHE that we are working on this and that we have implemented a program and we have required compliance. And two, just to make sure that we're getting the information and the data that we need as far as quantities of gallons of waste, that we have a good understanding of the best way to address that, either at the plant or at the individual businesses. So that's really what this is. I'd like to hand it over to Chris Thorne, who could just provide a little more information about this compliance letter.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. It's a pleasure to be before you tonight. It's nice to see some familiar faces and old friends up there, so appreciate that. Michael did a great job summarizing the background for this item that's before you, and I can just provide, I think, just a couple of additional points that I think are important. And one of those is I'd just like to focus a little more carefully or closely on what the state's inspection report said. The state said that future failures to correct the discharge issues would be considered a violation of the discharge permit, and must be corrected, and that failure of the permittee to properly develop and enforce pretreatment standards and requirements as necessary could potentially subject the plant to legal action from the state and also the EPA. So that's the background here. And as Michael said, this effort is to demonstrate to the state that the town is moving forward and being responsive to the state's findings and requirements here. Also, I'd like to point out that pretreatment programs for commercial and industrial waste streams are really common. Most localities along the Front Range have requirements for breweries and distilleries to track and treat waste streams. Municipalities that do not have systems capable of handling brewery discharges often charge enhanced or appropriate fees for the handling of that waste. So implementing a pretreatment program with perhaps an enhanced fee schedule will generally align the town with standard practice in the state, in my view. As Michael stated, tonight we're asking the board to authorize the town manager to sign, distribute, and enforce the commercial pretreatment compliance letter that's in your packet. The letter or the compliance letter will initiate a mandatory program requiring breweries and distilleries to initially process all production waste into separate side stream containers. Currently, that's happening on a voluntary basis, and to provide monthly production reports to the town, as Michael stated. The town's authority to mandate and enforce this program is set out in detail in the letter. The intent of this initial requirement is to allow the town and its consultants to better understand the quantity and quality of brewery and distillery waste, and to develop a program that will allow the wastewater treatment plant to properly handle those waste streams and maintain compliance with the permit going forward. Later this summer, the town staff will then use the data to propose to you changes to the Fraser sanitary sewer system code to formalize side stream capture and treatment requirements, along with new fees. This step that we're considering tonight is really the second step after the state's inspection report, following up on Tetra Tech's efforts toward ensuring the plant's compliance with its discharge permit going forward as required by the state, and ensuring that waste streams with disproportionate impacts are appropriately addressed. So that's a quick summary, and I was talking fast there, but as I said, Michael did a great job of describing where we are and what we're asking for tonight. So with that, any questions for Michael or me on this item?
Yeah, this is Lewis. So why aren't we addressing the other districts in the sanitation? I mean, it just,
So that's really the next step. So with the town of Fraser being the managing entity of the JFOC, there's, I guess, been a precedence, and Joe's over there smiling, but there's really been a precedence of okay, if we're gonna look at some major initiatives here, we want Fraser to
lead the way.
to lead the way on this, and that's okay, because it does take, some effort on our part, just especially as a managing entity. I've been communicating with the other sanitation district managers about tonight's meeting and this compliance letter, and that if approved by the board tonight, I will get that to them, and would be encouraging them to be tailoring that to their own sanitation districts. Winter Park Ranch doesn't really have any concerns related to industrial waste. Safeway is on their system, but there is no, at this time, there are no breweries or distilleries in that shopping outlet next to Safeway. If any of that were to change, then we would want to make sure that they already have code in place that helps address this, but it's really just enforcing it through a formal program. But that is the next step, is taking this to the JFOC meeting and really trying to encourage as much as possible the other sanitation districts. There's also been discussions that we've been having about adopting another rule to the JFOC agreement to require this by any sanitation district that's connected to it. So we have a kind of a strategy that we want to work through as far as getting compliance with the other sanitation districts nearby, and then working towards that adoption of a new rule, which would require a vote of at least one from their sanitation board as well.
So even if we're in compliance if they're not, they could throw the whole system out of compliance, right?
Well, and that's part of this. So once Fraser is we have our users offline, it really does shift the pressure, I guess, to Winter Park, to Grand County #1, who covers the majority of Winter Park. And with that, the JFOC can look at adopting some enforcement mechanisms behind that, as far as if they're not, enforcing their current standards, which have to be in alignment with our discharge permit as well at the plant. So if they continue to be in violation with that, we could be adopting, the GFOC could be adopting some enforcement measures to that sanitation district or the actual commercial user itself, similar to what Chris talked about with the EPA and the state.
Okay, on this map, they have identified restaurants and other entities. I'm not sure why are they a significant contributor to?
No, they were just it was part of a sampling plan for all the commercial categories of commercial users that were on the sewer system.
Okay,
So a lot of it was looking at, restaurants, Safeway was on there. There's a few different categories of businesses that were on there. And part of the discussion was, well, we're not trying to just pick on or target brewers or distilleries, but we want to do a larger sample to make sure that there's no other sampling their wastewater to ensure that we're not seeing the chemical composition of discharges from Safeway, from their bakery, for example, that are similar to the impacts that we're having at the plant. And those have not been the cases.
Okay. I mean, you have a dispensary on here and
Yeah, we did a
Murdoch.
lot of different things because I don't know what a dispensary puts down the
Yeah, I
food
don't-
line either.
I don't.
And a lot of that was just working to, again, have a little bit wider net to do some general sampling of various categories, so that we can have a good understanding of what really is causing the impacts in the collection system and the sewer, versus just going after who we directly think it is.
Okay.
Joe?
Joe Fuquay, hello, everyone. We have, some breakdowns of commercial classifications in, JFOC agreement. And what we tried to do is hit all those different breakdowns. And then a couple were requests from the other managers of, commercial laundry, I think was one of the requests. But we tried to hit each one of the very commercial users. The scale goes from A through D or E, if I remember correctly, and each one's broken down for car washes, restaurants, cafeterias, churches, schools.
Joe,
So the car wash out there brings up a point. Where does that water go? Does it go into the sewer system?
Yeah, yes.
So that's a potential significant contributor to,
With, the car wash that Clark currently has, is that the one you're?
no, I'm
or
talking about
the-
the
right.
Juan one here.
Ron's car wash and the one out on Highway 40, both of them, they were permitted when it was the sanitation district. And I kind of made them have standards. So they use soap of high pH, wash wax is all high pH stuff. And we have low pH water here, so that helped us out. And it might be a little more expensive on their part, but nobody has ever complained about it.
Well, no, I was thinking about, the contaminants like the oil and gas and different hydrocarbons that might get into the system.
Most of, as kind of Michael alluded to, in all of my years here operating, be it this sewer plant and the one in Granby, none of the issues with high shrink loading for BOD, ammonia, ever happened until we started having microbrews and distilleries. All the other factors that come in, I mean, we don't take out all of the oil. I mean, we do take out all of the oil, but some of the stuff that they talk about, the was it, PFAS is the big one now.
Mhm.
Some of that stuff we don't take out and or we accumulate it in our sludge. The main pass-through is chemicals that we take, like Tylenol, Excedrin, those kinds of things. Birth control pills, those are pass-through that we have no effect down there. Most everything else, if it's carbon source or carbon type, we take it out.
When you were describing the sampling of the different industries, was that for the JFOC as a whole, or is that for Fraser specific?
That was for the JFOC as a whole.
Okay.
What are the costs to the brewers going to be? Because at this point, it's been funded by the town, right?
Right, it's been funded 45% by the town, 45% by Grant County number one, and 10% by Winter Park Ranch. I mean, that'll be a future discussion as far as how much, once we conclude our pilot program, which I think here sometime in April, we'll be looking to wrap this up and have the data that we need. And from there, we'll be having that conversation as far as, how much do we want to consider subsidizing that 45% of the bill, and show you what the bills have been. Right now, the cost we have 6 brewers and distilleries, Joe. For 6 for this tank truck to come up from the Front Range, it's a $2,000 trip, plus some nominal amount per gallon of waste collected. So with this pilot program, we've also been talking about, okay, let's communicate with each other. Let's figure out a frequency that makes sense so that we're not just calling it up willy-nilly every time. We have changed it so that they are only coming up if requested. But we're looking at getting that a little more locked down to, we have, solid dates every month that the brewers and distillers can plan on, so that hopefully they're really only making 1 to 2 trips a month. Unless one of the brewers or distillers has a major production month that they really want to do. Some of these guys will do, half of their brewing operation in 1 month, for example. But that's, so if we're looking at 45% of 2,000, we're talking about $1,000 and a month for that. And that's assuming that they only come up once a month. So you double that if they're coming up twice a month. So we'll present all that information here in the future, and we're still trying to figure out what the recommendation is going to be as far as having a treatment at the plant, which still is going to require side stream capturing. So it could be the town or the JFOC or the plant purchasing a tank truck. Could be a scenario. But we'll have all those options, and we'll be discussing those here in the next couple months. But the cost will be a future discussion item, and there could be a stair-step method. There could be some different things that we look at that the board may want to consider. But yeah, it is a cost to the ratepayers, right now through this program, and do the ratepayers want to continue to pay that as the elected officials for the town? That would be a decision that you'll have to make.
So we're totally subsidizing it now.
We are right now for the pilot program to get the quantities that we need and everything else, and to get everybody in full swing of this. And part of this was just, once we started getting violations at the plant, we didn't understand the implications of what this waste was going to have on the plant. Now that's been sampled, it's been researched, it's been analyzed, it's been reported on. We know what the issue is, and now we're addressing the issue. That's been part of the discussion and justification for the pilot program for being subsidized right now. But again, that's just for this limited period. And then once we figure out what the best short-term and long-term strategies are, we'll be bringing that to the board and then to the JFOC for final approval. But for the town of Fraser, if we're maintaining this contract through Denali, that would be a discussion with the board as far as how much, if any, do you want to subsidize this program, or do you want to have that just charged through different fees to these users and have that discussion?
So each district can decide whether or not they're
Yep.
gonna subsidize it or, okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
The main thing is that we're meeting the requirements for our discharge permit at the plant.
Mhm.
Good questions.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-03-07. A resolution authorizing the
see.
town.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. What'd you say? Oh, wait.
08, okay, 08. Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on, resolution 2025-0309, approval of business enhancement grant awards. This is Sarah Catanzarite.
Good evening, Mayor Sirkvenick, trustees. I'm Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager. You have before you approval of Fraser Business Enhancement Grant applications for funding. So just to provide a little bit of background, the Fraser Business Enhancement Grant Program is intended to support current businesses and improve the economic vitality of Fraser by encouraging enhancements to the physical appearance of business properties, improvements of public infrastructure, amenities and gathering places, and increased ADA accessibility. So last September, the Board of Trustees did approve increasing the maximum grant award to $25,000 per project. It was previously $7,500. This decision was made in part just recognizing the cost of inflation and what a total project might look like in terms of actually having kind of significant impacts. We also established a March 3rd priority deadline. Previously, applications were just received on a rolling basis and were approved at an administrative level if they met the grant eligibility. $125,000 was budgeted for the Business Enhancement Grant Program for 2025. Additionally, there's about $25,000 that rolled over from the previous year's grant budget that was not utilized in 2024. So your staff briefing includes the information that's provided on our website that kind of outlines the program further. So eligible projects include ADA improvements, publicly displayed art, landscaping and streetscape improvements, exterior decorations, facade improvements, painting, signage, awnings, cornices, sidewalks, exterior lighting, gathering spaces, public amenities, patios, or other related exterior improvements. Improvements providing the most public benefit will be prioritized. This includes projects that increase ADA accessibility, provide gathering spaces and amenities for public use, improve public infrastructure, and/or contribute to the beautification and uniqueness of Fraser. It also outlined on the website grant request amounts. 50% project match is generally required, though a lower project match may be considered for projects providing a maximum public benefit. Again, that priority consideration deadline was March 3rd. It included information that if money remained in the pot, we would continue to accept applications on a rolling basis while funds remained, and those would be considered as they came in. We required them to complete a business enhancement grant application and to provide some different documents providing information on their project. Things like new construction, interior improvements are not included. So some of those different ineligible projects are also listed. In terms of the review process, we did receive 9 applications by the March 3rd deadline. This far exceeds the applications we've previously received for this program, which were anywhere between 1 to last year we received 4. And 2 of those applications came in at the end of the year after the board discussed increasing the grants and kind of raising awareness. But we had a grant review committee that included Diane Butler from Grand County Economic Development, Lori Hannon, the DDA president, Bill Palmer, a DDA board member and local business owner, myself, and Sarah Wick, also from town staff. So we met to review the applications. The committee deemed 8 of the 9 applications to be eligible based on the criteria or partially eligible. So there were some applications that asked for cost, for a number of different items, and we deemed some of those to be eligible and others not. The application from Simple Coffee was deemed not to be eligible as it was an interior improvement. So the attached spreadsheet that was included in your packet does kind of walk through just a brief summary of the different applications we received and the recommendations of the committee. I'm going to go ahead and share that on the screen now as well. And once again, let's see. All right. So I'll kind of walk through, and I'm happy to go into more detail. It's probably easier if you're following along on your own version versus the screen, but I'll just briefly kind of walk through the different applications that we received that the committee deemed eligible for funding. We also presented these to the larger DDA board for their comments, and I'll share those where they diverged from the committee. But for the most part, they passed a motions in support of the subcommittee's recommendations for these. So the Holiday Inn Express had a project to replace and refurbish their fire pit and grill, providing seating options, a gazebo, and installing energy efficient trail lights on a trail that would go from that gazebo outdoor area back to the Fraser River Trail. That gazebo would largely be available for hotel guests, but they said they would provide access to it to the public for a day rate. So their request was $10,000. The recommended award based on the breakdown of the budget they provided was $8,109. This would be with a 50% match. Simple Coffee, as I said, was deemed ineligible. Camber Brewing Company had a number of items. So some were deemed eligible, some were deemed not eligible. They were looking to replace the roofing on their awning, to paint the exterior of the building, renew the mural, 2 new windows on that same side as the mural, replacing an outdated water heater with a tankless water heater to make more space for ADA accessibility in the back, providing a ramp to increase ADA accessibility to the back patio. And then they had submitted an application in 2024 for a project that they've started, but they have not actually gotten reimbursement for. So they wrapped it into this project. And it wasn't a huge amount. It was like $650 that they had requested last year. So that was to build a retaining wall. They thought it might help with snow melt, as well as just improve the property. And then they're looking to now put planters for flowers on top of those walls. So the committee did not deem the tankless water heater to be eligible. The DDA did recommend that you consider it as an ADA improvement. They thought that was a valid argument for increasing ADA accessibility. And the mural we have taken out of this request and are looking at separately with the Public Arts Committee. They're interested in potentially providing a commission to replace that mural this year or in the near future. So when you look at taking out the water heater and the mural, that brings a recommended award down to $5,500, and again, requiring that 50% match.
Sarah, do you want questions on these individually or all? Wait till the end.
But we can do it either way.
I was curious about the work performed in 2024 because that's explicitly not eligible in the grant.
The wall.
I don't know what work was done, but it said work that was done in 24. But we, in the grant application or whatever, it says that we do not fund work already completed.
Correct. So they were approved for an application. They, as I understand it from Nick, started the work, but had not, when I followed up with him, because typically we require that they do the project that same calendar year, but he submitted for this pretty late in the fall. So he started the project, snow came, he didn't finish it. So he had been approved to do that as part of his application. For simplicity, since we haven't actually paid that out, we just rolled that into this application for the total scope.
We're-
But he had applied and had it approved
Mhm.
before he did the work. One of the things that we're looking,
But where's the break? I guess why did he not get reimbursed?
he hasn't submitted the receipts
Well,
to
that's
get
on
reimbursed
him.
because he hadn't finished the
That's-
project.
That's not necessarily on us.
No, and it's one of the things that I think we are looking to tighten up is
This
actually,
I desperately want a workshop, yes.
yeah, well, we want to, actually, the plan is to provide contracts, which we haven't done in the past. It's been a pretty simple sign off via email. They've submitted their receipts when they've submitted them kind of thing, generally within the year, but we've definitely had some rollover, which just makes budgeting a little more complicated. So actually providing contracts, one of the things that we emphasized was that this should be applications for project work that they are expecting to complete this year. And if they're not completing it this year, they have to put in a formal written request for an extension with a reason and receive
Yeah, I
that
mean-
formal approval.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear these things.
Yeah, so we're definitely
Just
planning
seems
to
like
do
a
that
breakdown that,
because yeah. And again, typically, I think the idea is that these would come in earlier in the year, and he applied pretty late in the year.
And just so that the board knows too, we have discussed about bringing this back here in the very near future to have a discussion. It could be a workshop format, but just based on the discussion tonight and the awards and maybe if there's a desires to change some of the programming for eligibility criteria and awards and matches and those different things, that we can have that discussion with the board and we can make updates to this program continuously. But we're likely going to have one here in the next couple months talking about this specifically, and how you would like to modify this program or make any changes.
Yeah. And we did do an economic development workshop last June. And then again, this was brought before the board in September last year to kind of make some changes to the program. But that said, I think it's an ongoing process. We've modeled this, well, I wasn't here when this was originally created, but in some of the suggested changes and just looking at other programs, this does seem to be modeled on similar programs. But I think one of the things we could do is look at actually developing a more refined economic development policy and then tailoring grant awards to that policy. The intention right now is to encourage businesses to improve their properties, particularly the physical exterior, and kind of up the curb appeal for Fraser, with the idea that that does provide a community and public benefit in driving economic development and just beautification, driving visitation, things like that, which is why this focuses on exterior versus interior improvements.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to have some clear goals, and like the Holiday Inn Express one, how is that going to improve the sort of curb appeal for Fraser? I mean, I don't get that. They're putting in a fire pit grill. It sounds like it's for their own operations for the hotel and not, I don't see the connection there. I mean, why are we funding some of these projects that I think businesses really have ownership of, and they should fund it themselves? We shouldn't be funding stuff for them unless it's really going to improve the
and
curb
this has got to
appeal.
be super transparent. We're giving tax dollars to private enterprises.
Yeah.
It's got to be as transparent. We've got to follow the rules as close as we can. There's a finite population that's eligible for this. I think 80%, what's our percentage of business owners in town? 5%? I mean, when you start looking at the people paying the taxes versus who's receiving it, I think we need to be incredibly transparent. I think we need to stick to our rules. I'm extremely concerned that we are recommending a nonprofit. We didn't advertise it that way. We're shorting all the other nonprofits or NGOs in the town by accepting one. We have a nonprofit grant program. I don't know. I've got problems with this all up and down. The way it's, I mean, some of them are good, but I think we don't have very many rules. We need to stick to those because of the nature of this program. It benefits, and we're putting it under this umbrella of public benefit, but you know, we need to be very, very careful and very, very transparent, I think. Yeah, you know, and unfortunately, we're getting ahead and off of individual projects, but I mean, my most favorable is ineligible. Because it's a nonprofit. This is a business.
Yeah,
enhancement.
well, why don't we go ahead and go through them and we can talk
Okay.
about that when we get there. The
Yeah.
committee did talk about this. And I will just reiterate, like approval of these awards is at the full discretion of the Board of Trustees. So the committee has made their recommendations.
That's fine.
You are in your full power to agree with those recommendations or not in terms of making those awards or not. But I can provide the committee's reasoning and you can choose to accept it or make a different decision. So Solstice Bistro applied for a number of items. A lot of those items were deemed ineligible. What we deemed eligible was for work that would be done to their physical building. So they wanted custom banners for store and for the rodeo where they also serve. We said that it could work for their physical store. So what is eligible there would be the banners that they would hang on a flagpole at their Fraser restaurant location over there by Safeway. The artwork and design for that logo and signage, lettering for the building facade, and then which includes for a vinyl backlit sign, and then 2 patio tables and umbrellas that would be used again at their physical location. So that award is for just over $1,500, again, with the 50% match.
So when you say banner that's hung from a pole, it's not one of those flying things that just whip around.
It's like the teardrop ones, right?
Is it more like a
She was
light
telling
pole
me that
thing?
they're not, yes, my understanding is like a flagpole, that they're not able to put a physical sign up, but that they can have a flagpole. I was originally envisioning it like a flag, but in talking to Michael, he suggested it would be more, I don't know what the word is, hang down it versus out like a typical
So-
flag.
We spent a lot of time going through the sign code when we did Grand Park. Remember how much fun that was? I don't think we ever addressed the sign code in the town of Fraser. And you know, it might be time to look at that because there should be some relationship to frontage to the amount of signage they get. That did not happen in Grand Park, sadly. It was so big that it didn't even make sense, but anyway, that's something I think we need to consider also is, you know, how much signage a business gets and what kind of signage works. I mean, I know that the town of Winter Park's going through a sign code revision and they're trying to clean up the sandwich signs and the flying banner things, and we might wanna do some things along with that.
Well, and interestingly, I think that building, despite having everybody go to Safeway for their groceries, seems to struggle with visibility. And I've heard that from most of the businesses over there and just from citizens, you know, commenting on the lack of visibility for those businesses.
I'm fine with this funding permanent signage, but I don't see why we need to fund a banner, you know?
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
I don't understand why we need to fund a banner. Like if it's a permanent sign on the side of the building or something like that, that's one thing, and it, you know, is fixing a sign that exists that isn't good looking. But I mean, I'm not asking for a now hiring at Home James sign, you know, like that's basically what this feels like to me. So I don't think it should be funded.
When was all this criteria put together? How old is this?
It was back in September 2024.
Oh, hey, well, I don't know. It seems like we need to tighten this up, relook at it and tighten it up because it's kind of loosey-goosey. And there are a lot of things that could qualify for this. It only needs to be one of the criteria.
And part of the benefit of having so many applications for so many different things is because it makes you think about things that we haven't had to think about before. And, you know, to Sarah there, you know, for their efforts on this. They're really just working on the criteria that's been already established for this and trying to make the best decision and recommendation they can just based on previous awards and things of that nature. But there's absolutely room for any changes the board wants to do. This can be a continuously updated program. Facade improvements, exterior improvements, public improvements, I think ADA accessibility. I think it's really kind of been at the core of this for several years now. But please, we're writing down notes. I'm writing down notes for things like this. If you want to compile any notes you have to, we'll have a discussion about this later and we can really kind of drill down on making this program, I think, more effective and I think more designed to the intent of it. And, for the discussions about the DDA plan of development and trying to attract new commercial development coming in, this was very much from that budget season discussion to increase the amount that could be awarded is really trying to, help enhance the existing businesses and support existing businesses while also promoting that new commercial development. So you have a good balance of that commercial growth.
So are all these businesses within the DDA?
Grandkids Learning would not be as the nonprofit that applied.
But this was wasn't this established before the DDA?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
just it's all of Fraser.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones do fall within the DDA. I mean, the vast
I'm
majority
just
of our
thinking,
current
why
businesses
can't we
do.
just delegate it to the DDA and let you guys make the decision? You have funding.
Well, the discussion previously was to have the DDA help promote it, get the word out, to help review this, which we did. We formed a subcommittee with some DDA members, but also wanted outside voices to make sure. So we asked a couple people to apply, or not to apply, to participate on the committee. Some of them felt like they potentially would have conflicts of interest. Diane Butler is who we did have from Grand County Economic Development to make sure, since it is a town project and town funding and it is available to businesses outside of the DDA. There was a request to make sure we had some non-DDA voices weighing in on those decisions for impartiality. So if the town board wanted just to go with the DDA recommendation, it would largely align with the recommendations here that subcommittee made. But again, they thought that the paying for the tankless water heater at Camber was justified for an ADA improvement, which is not currently represented in these recommendations from the committee. But ultimately they're town funds and it's open to businesses outside of the town. So that's why it's still coming to the town board for your approval. And per the previous discussion and request that, previously we were administratively approving them, but they were smaller amounts of money that the town board had requested that it come to you for those approvals.
I like the separation from the DDA just because otherwise it becomes one pool of money.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just thinking, isn't that the mission of the DDA? And couldn't it just come out of the funds that the DDA gets from the tax revenues going forward?
I think it could eventually, for businesses within the DDA, as Fraser is growing, there may be more larger number of businesses outside of those boundaries. They will largely be newer businesses. We have an agenda item just after this regarding the DDA budget, which was a bit smaller than we thought. So currently there's not a ton of funding with the DDA for this, but
The total budget is 36,000. DDA's total budget this year is 36,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah.
But yeah,
But that's gonna
I think-
grow.
I think as it grows, then this disappears from our budget and it goes into theirs.
Well, but I
we've
think
got-
it would be nice for the DDA to focus on larger scale projects that take a significant amount of capital and this could just disappear and then all of a sudden the DDA's. that
You
number.
know, I think this is all part of that workshop type discussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Save this for
Yeah.
later.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so why don't I keep, we've got just a couple left and then we can circle back to some of this. So Colorado Corn Dog Company applied, which did raise the question of a food truck applying versus a physical brick and mortar. They're looking to do a rebranding to become the Colorado Corn Dog and Hamburger Company, if I remember correctly. So they had a number of items that they asked for. A number of those items we deemed not to be eligible. But what was kind of again related to that exterior of the food truck wrap, a physical exterior menu board production, things like that were deemed eligible. I know the point is brought up that a food truck can very easily get up and leave. I know this particular food truck has been at Camber for a while. I think with a brick and mortar, I know some programs similar to this program include signage, others don't because businesses do change and that signage is generally attached to the business. I think we can include in the contracts a commitment of, X amount of time that business is committed to being in that location, be it a physical brick and mortar or a food truck, if the town is providing money for these things. But the committee thought it was eligible. And so 50% of expenses that were deemed eligible was $4,250. The next application was with Grandkids Learning Center. As Adam pointed out, it is a nonprofit. We did discuss that, and there were some different thoughts about that. Ultimately, the majority of the committee saw that even though it is a nonprofit, it is providing a business service. If it was a for-profit daycare, it would be eligible. I tried to think if this was on Highway 40, mixed in with all the businesses, would we look at it differently than we do based on it being in a residential neighborhood? So the committee did see fit to recommend awarding them for their exterior improvements. They had interior paint included that would not be eligible. And the committee did recommend awarding their requested reduced match based on the public benefit they provide in providing a critical service for our workforce that allows them to participate and provide for economic development. But Adam, that said, I think, you make a valid argument.
I'm sorry, what was your argument again?
Well, the first, it's not eligible. Second, we did not advertise it that way. And so all nonprofits, all daycare centers, all the other ones did not get offered this opportunity.
I'm going to
compete
disagree
with all of
though.
these.
A nonprofit is a business. So it's called the Business Enhancement Grant. So a nonprofit can apply. And just because they're the only ones that did, doesn't mean that they're at fault or that they should be not awarded.
Well,
Just means that the other ones
should
did.
advertise it differently then. I think we have a grant process for nonprofits where how much money did we give them this year through that grant process?
Yeah.
I
And I mean, I think it's worth looking at both of those grant processes together and the fact that they have gotten money.
Again, I think this is a workshop type
Yeah.
thing, but as far as we have other preschools that I don't know how this came to be, but I would imagine that there's some entities out there that have my interpretation.
It doesn't specifically say nonprofits aren't eligible, does it?
It doesn't. And again, I think we looked at if Grandkids was the same thing, but charged more because they were for profit, would that make them more eligible?
I just know Fraser houses a lot of nonprofits. Winter Park's too expensive for them. So I think it changes the context of this grant process.
Have we already given them money though?
And we
We
have
give them
a
money every year,
nonprofit
right?
grant process.
This is money on top of money we've already given them.
It is. And I mean, I would say there is a larger discussion being had and that will be brought in front of the board in terms of ongoing operational expenses. Because right now our childcare facilities across the board, I mean, it's a market failure. They struggle to pay their teachers a living wage and to function and keep their doors open and keep rates that are affordable for families. And this isn't something that's unique to Grand County. Like they are heavily subsidized in other mountain resort communities. They are heavily subsidized in probably every other, I don't want to overstate this, developed country, compared to the United States. Like it's something that the math doesn't add up for your average family, and for the centers that are serving average families versus, wealthier families that can afford to pay increased rates.
Well,
So-
yeah, that's a discussion we should have with the other municipalities in the county.
Yeah,
Because everybody should.
and we're working on
subsidize
that.
it.
Yes, and we're working on that conversation.
We've had conversations with mayors, managers, and commissioners
Okay.
meetings for the last 3 meetings. And we have some work in progress to identify the best use of funds, municipal funds, and the best return on value investment for supporting those operations.
Right.
You know, the link that was advertised for this program through our different marketing efforts, if you go to Fraser, Colorado, and you go to I want to, there's a section that says apply for business enhancement grant. The criteria that is on there, it is fairly simple and straightforward. Supporting our current businesses improve the economic vitality. This is the same thing that I believe is in your staff report. So this is really just kind of, that portion was just copy and paste from what we're already advertising. But really the evaluation criteria, improvements providing the most public benefit will be prioritized. This includes projects that increases ADA accessibility, provides gathering spaces and amenities for public use, and improve public infrastructure and or continue to the beautification and uniqueness of Fraser. It's like a 1 sentence evaluation criteria.
What I'm looking at has, I don't know,
That was one that popped.
7 or 8 criteria, and they're vague. Provide public benefit.
Are you looking at the economic incentives for new businesses? That's higher up
Yeah.
on the
Keep going
webpage.
down.
Economic incentive and grant program.
Yep. Keep
And it says one or more of the following: diversify economic base, provide
No.
unique.
That's a different
keep
program
going down.
list.
Okay.
Keep going down the list. Fraser and.
That's evaluation criteria.
Fraser Business.
There's
Okay.
2 different things advertised on that
What was the
page.
first one? Oh, it's business incentive, sorry.
Yeah, that first one was economic incentives for new commercial development.
In an effort to keep this moving,
Okay.
I'm gonna say, board, let's not interrupt Sarah again, and then let's allow applicants to speak, and then we can kind of discuss more.
So Fraser Valley Distilling, as you know, came before you not too long ago to request an increase to their award from last year. They were asked to submit their application in this round to be considered in the competitive process. So the committee did deem their project eligible. 25,000 is significantly less than half of their project cost. So they were given that, and then they would meet that minimum 50% match. Just to clarify, this amount would be inclusive of, they had previously applied and requested 7,500, which they were granted. They didn't do the project. They came back to ask for more. We had them come back. So we're not looking at 25,000 plus 7,500. That's inclusive of the 25,000. Moose and Merchant is the new bakery that is going in front of Storm Townhomes. This did raise the question of do they count as a current business? Once they open their doors, they are a current business. I'm giving you fodder here, Adam. So I initially was like, I don't know if they're eligible, but in talking through this, again, they'll open their doors in this cycle of the year when they'd have to complete it and they'd be a current business. So the committee did discuss this, but deemed them to be eligible. They're looking for a patio awning, outdoor patio furnishing, and planters. They talked about having a lot of concrete going in over there in Clayton Court and trying to make it a more inviting space and providing some greenery. And then lastly, Black Tie Ski Rentals is looking to replace their siding. They said they have looked at getting quotes just to have the building painted, but have been told that the siding's too far gone, that the paint would not stick. So they are requesting money for that. And that would be an amount of 19,688 would be 50% of the budget that they provided. Black Tie Ski Rentals previously was awarded a business enhancement grant to asphalt their parking lot. My understanding is the town required them to do that back in 2023. Camber has also previously received a couple different business enhancement grants to do different projects. They've used it for a patio. They used it to beautify the old car wash behind the Shell station where they, I guess, brew their beer, which I just learned today, and then to replace some windows. And then, as you know, Fraser Valley Distilling has an economic incentive package. So they've gotten different rebates and whatnot that have been shared with you through the town, through that economic incentive program for new businesses. Would you like to open it up to any
Yeah,
applicants?
Any applicants? Yeah, we can start with Ashley. She's had her hand up.
Hi, trustees and mayor. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate you considering our grant. Again, I'm Ashley Bobo, the Executive Director of Grandkids Learning Center. Sarah, thank you for sharing all the information through our grant. We really appreciate it. Just to speak to really quickly that, yes, you guys are an amazing supporter of grandkids, and we appreciate every dollar that you give to us. Um, we did receive an amazing $25,000 grant from you guys already. However, I will say our ask was $75,000 because our operational, again, like Sarah said, there's a big gap between what we're able to do through our regular operations and keep affordable care to our families and maintain qualified teachers. So these things may not seem huge to you guys, but they do mean a lot to us. And it is, as you've seen in the packet, like the paint on our outside is very failing. Just the curb appeal, as we are right across from Fraser Elementary, where every Crane County local that has an early a child from kindergarten through fifth grade comes and drops off on this side of the county every day. We are the other scene business in the county for that on this side. So we would appreciate your consideration and just thoughtfulness that every dollar counts for us, and we appreciate your thoughtfulness that it's not a huge ask, but it's a big contribution to our overall investment in grandkids. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Ashley. Is there anybody else online?
Barry, would you like to speak?
One.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments. Number one, just in general, I've had this conversation with the town manager, the mayor, several months ago when I read the master plan of the town of Winter Park and the resort. They reiterated their philosophy that they've been setting for some time, that it is their objective that tourists come to town, stay either at the resort or the town of Winter Park. They will likely put in a new gondola. They're going to build a significant amount of more retail at the resort. The town of Winter Park already has Aero, which is 20,000 square feet. It is the goal of the town of Winter Park and the resort collaboratively to get people to come, sleep there, ski there, shop there, and eat there. And they have a lot of money. And as I stated when I presented this group a few months ago, as a business and a member of the Economic Advisory Development group since its inception, I sincerely appreciated the amount of money that you all are allocating toward this. And as I listen to this discussion, I would like you all to really focus on the fact that businesses in the town of Fraser will experience severe competition in a very premeditated manner sometime in the next 3 to 7 years. And to the degree we can build up businesses and get them to have a ongoing customer base that is devoted to them, I think it will save the businesses in the town of Fraser. So as I said a few months ago, as a member of the DDA and EDAC and a business owner, I'm very appreciative that you've allocated this amount of money And I would encourage you all to follow the recommendations of the DDA and the group and approve all of them. I think this is extremely important. Just a comment with respect to our request. If any of you all are familiar with the cost of building per square foot, you can probably estimate what we've already invested in the building. Restaurants are struggling. We're actually having a slightly better year than last year. In the economic report earlier this week on retail sales, my son Michael noted that nationwide restaurants had the biggest drop in revenues in February since COVID. So our customer base is cutting back, and anything we all can do, whether it be Camber or the Corn Dog Group or us, will help us get through all this. The other comment I'd like to make is when I presented to you all commented on the amount of money that we've received to date. And I probably, along with Katie Souls, is the only one who was around for those discussions. But when the town manager came to EDAC 7, 8 years ago, with the experience that other towns have had, they recommended a program where you encourage new businesses like Vicious Cycle and the distillery to build new buildings and establish new businesses with the idea that it will create sales tax revenue and property tax revenue that never would have existed had these businesses not be established. And after a very short period of time, the town would benefit from that. So we're through the first 5 years. So the property tax refunds were actually refunds of property tax that our business paid. The sales tax refunds are now down to half of what they were, and they are sales tax that our customers paid that would not have existed. So the whole idea of the development incentive plan was to get people to build businesses that they probably wouldn't have. And it's paying off. If you look at not only what Vicious Cycle and we have created, look at all the businesses that followed us. The whole downtown corridor is much more vibrant than it was 7, 8 years ago. And the combination of what we've done and what can be done with these business enhancement grants will continue that. So you all nominated a DDA group and other people that advise you that really have the business interests in mind and the town's interests in mind. So I'd encourage you to approve this in its entirety. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to address that.
Looks like Stephanie had her hand up.
Okay.
Hi guys, this is Stephanie and I am the owner of Black Tie Ski Rentals, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate the opportunity and the consideration. I would love the opportunity to beautify my building. I have pictures that I included with my application. I'm just because I put that employee housing in upstairs and then had to pave the lot. I had always intended to, repaint and all of that. But like Sarah mentioned, when I went to get some quotes, was basically told that the siding, the paint would not adhere to the siding, so that it would basically be a wasted cost. So that is why I have applied for this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. We'll take some in the room now.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead and approach the mic. There's people online.
Thank you for your time. My name is Kevin Richards. My wife and I own the Colorado Corn Dog Company here in Fraser. We appreciate the opportunity to be considered for this grant money. That's wonderful. We have a 2019 food trailer that sits behind the Camber Brewing Company. And it's due for a rewrap. And while we're doing the rewrap, we want to change from just the corn dog company to the Colorado Corn Dog and Burger Company, since that's probably become more of our sales, or a good balance of our sales of the hamburgers that Tanya is putting out every day. So I want to thank you, first of all. Also wanted to say that we're at Camber. One thing I've noticed about Camber at the back of that back entrance into Camber is that water heater that is in the way of any possible wheelchair access. I wasn't aware that that was part of his plan to do the hot water heater, but hearing it tonight, I thought maybe I'd put my 2 cents in that the tankless on the wall very well could increase accessibility to Camber with the water heater that's currently in that back entrance way that is clearly blocking any opportunity, I would think, of an 80. So, and I also want to say that our food trailer is based in Fraser. It is based year round in Fraser. We're open 24 days a month. We only close on Mondays year round at that location. We move it about 3 times a year. The fair and rodeo was one, and a couple of charity events. We'll go do Troublesome Fest and that kind of stuff. But we are frozen into that location about 7 months out of the year anyway. So it's not something that's going to be readily transported to other events and capitalizing on everything that happens around the county. There's about 3 moves that we make a year. Other than that, it is at that location 24 days a month generally, year round. Was minus 35, minus 40 degrees outside. We're open 11:30 to 8, 6 days a week, and we are there. So just thought I'd let you guys know that. And if any questions for me, I'd love to hear.
I do. Being that it's mobile, I mean, I'm struggling with, and I do believe that you are a pretty permanent fixture over there, but I'm struggling with the concept of food trucks because not everybody will be as residential as you, I guess. And so one of the things that I came up with in my head is putting a Fraser logo on your wrap.
Yeah.
If we're paying for it. And that way, if you go to another place, and I'm trying to make this work for me because I don't think we fund wrapping Home Gyms trucks or Grand Mountain rides. I don't think, so I'm seeing some inconsistencies, I guess, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this work. And I'm thinking a Fraser logo as big as your logo might, bridge that gap or something. I'm just trying to come up with a contract saying, I don't know how we enforce a contract if you move.
Yeah. No, I understand. Thank
Stuff
you.
like that. I don't know how we know even your sales. I mean, I don't know how you report your sales tax being your mobile.
Oh, well,
you
no,
can
we're
say it's in Winter Park.
365 Xerox. It's all Fraser revenue.
Yeah, but these are some of the issues that I'm seeing in that I'm trying to reconcile on your application.
Correct.
So.
No, when I file state sales tax, it's 100% Fraser, with the rare Grand Lake and a rare Kremling when we do Troublesome Fest or the Fair and Rodeo. Those are non-physical sites when I file my return each month. But no, 99% of the money is Fraser based and Fraser addressed. And then the logoing opportunity is a little limited, with our window taking up most of it and propane doors taking up most of it. There's a very little place. However, I do want to answer part of your question. That is, we'd be very proud to put a Fraser logo on our trailer, just to let you know. It may not be the same size as ours just because of space, but I would be proud to have a Fraser logo.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how to make that concept work when it's not a permanent fixture in town. So.
We do have the backside as well that's completely blank right now. That's faces the parking lot, kind of faces towards the train tracks. You know what I mean? That's pretty much a wide open a billboard, if you will, that we might be able to utilize that in some regard, especially when we travel, because that's no longer. It's much more visible when we do travel. But again, it's just the Fair and Rodeo, and it's just 1 or 2 charity events. So
hey, Fraser on the back, everybody that's behind you.
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your to discuss your point, we'd be proud to have your logo on our trail.
Very good. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, you bet.
We all had a lot of questions about the food truck idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps.
And wanting to treat you guys all evenly
Yeah.
Yeah.
as well, you know, not have different rules for different food trucks.
No, we are
So-
thankful, like I said, the 6 12-hour days we do every week, are our dedication
Mhm.
to providing great food to the town. And it continues to grow at a very nice pace, and we're thankful. So,
Great, thanks.
you bet.
Anybody else? Okay. So I think we have more discussion to be had. Of course, options are that we could table this to another meeting, potentially after a workshop. But I know that all the people on this list want to get going with their projects. And so I think the better idea is to kind of talk through them, decide, is it what we think the business enhancement grant is for? And then after we make the decision, if we do tonight, then we put that more in writing so that it is more in stone than just kind of a willy-nilly, what's the board think today kind of thing.
Right.
And Mayor Stickman, if I can just add that the next steps for the awards that are approved, we will work to put together contracts, as I mentioned previously, with each of the recipients that outlines the scope of work that they're committing to, the items that are eligible, confirming that they will be completing the work this year, and then what's required in terms of reporting and reimbursement request.
So I don't know, maybe we want to define a little bit more of our own criteria as we go through these. You know, I think a business enhancement grant should improve curb appeal and potentially increase sales revenue and therefore sales tax dollars to the town. What are there other things that you guys would like to, put out there?
In my mind, that's kind of the intent of this, right? I guess I'd want to clarify too, if someone's already receiving, business incentive, they got a business incentive, but I assume Fraser Valley is still getting money back from the town. Why are we giving them more money? The same thing with, kids, if we're giving them $25,000, I'd be curious who else is pitching in on that. Not all those kids that go there are Fraser residents, I don't think, are they? If we're already giving somebody money, then I think, in my mind, they're kind of ineligible for additional monies from another program.
I disagree. I mean, I feel like the one for the grandkids, the 25,000 mainly went towards their teachers and helping that. And now this is improving the exterior. But like that's what they said. They need help paying their teachers. So it's
Understood, but I think
it's
I'd
different.
like to see
They're
more
different.
detail around who else is contributing, who else is giving them money, and who are they serving? Because I think the intention is for it to serve Fraser residents, kids from Fraser, right? That's why we're giving them money.
I mean, I think
Benefiting
it's
the town. Why
not
would
just
we
kids from
subsidize
Fraser.
it's a business in our town. If we want the businesses to look nice,
profit?
They're still a
yeah, it's
business.
still a
Do they pay
business.
taxes?
No. But
And that's where you mentioned it, are churches eligible, are
that's where
NGOs eligible, where does this?
Mhm.
Well, and donor advised funds, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but that is more focused towards nonprofits, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I'll just add, like, when I was thinking about this, I know they've moved, but like Tame Wellness used to be adjacent to Fisher's there in that building. And again, it's in our commercial district. It's right, if they wanted to paint their portion of the building, plant flowers, beautify it, put a park bench out in front, I think we would want to consider that. And so I don't know if, as we talk moving forward about what that criteria looks like, if it is, it's not intended for residential properties, but maybe nonprofits and businesses within the business district, or how we define that exactly. But I mean, I definitely went over this several ways in my own head in terms of what makes sense. And again, part of me came back to, if they charge more and we're for profit, then they'd be eligible. And is that serving the community? So how do you define business? Because they provide a service that often is a business.
The other component, if we're jumping into grandkids, is they're not using any of their funds for beautification of their building at this point. They are squeaking by to pay their teachers so they don't have to increase rates for the kids that go there. So if we want to see it improve, if that's the point of a business enhancement grant, then this is something we should consider.
Your original statement was that this is to increase sales tax dollars.
Or curb appeal.
Okay.
So, if Fraser Valley Elementary came to us and asked for the same thing, would we consider it? I don't know. But that's
kind
the
of
tricky thing, But if the intent of the business enhancement grant is to make Fraser look better and make more money, then I think it fits.
And we have only been doing the donor advised funds for the last 2 or 3 years, 2 years. And again, that pot of money is entirely focused on nonprofit support. So.
What exactly is the donor advised fund?
Donor advised fund is a fund that we have, Grant Foundation is a fiduciary for. So when did we award those? October? Last October?
Sounds about right. October,
So we
November.
had a subcommittee with,
November.
I honestly can't remember who was on the subcommittee. I think it was Katie Fisher and actually Katie Souls, the two who are not here tonight. And we looked at a lot of different nonprofits, and it's basically supporting nonprofits and community services in the valley. And that's the entirety of the focus for donor advised funds. So some of these could overlap. It's whatever you want to do, Boyd. But just reminding you about that fund as well.
Did they go to them and ask for money?
So that's what we awarded the 25,000 front through, was the donor advised funds to grandkids.
Correct. And I know they requested more than that, but
Right, and that was for operational, and they received, I think, contributions from not just the town of Fraser, but from other entities as well.
correct.
Do we have a limit on those funds? Per ask?
I'd have to review that program.
75,000.
Okay.
So the other thing that Lewis brought up is everything that these businesses have received ever, are we gonna take that into consideration as well? And are we gonna cap it, or are we gonna be like, okay, we'll kind of forget about it after 5 years and not look at it anymore? I mean, what, we keep kind of going back and forth as to how we're going to consider that.
Money every year. I mean, it seems like if they get money, last year, then they shouldn't be eligible for, they shouldn't be able to ask for money every year. It seems like we're just
Becomes a line item.
just throwing money around. It seems like we're not being good fiduciaries of,
I think that daycare is really critical.
well, I mean, I'm not.
That is not
I
a,
think it's essential part of the
Yeah.
community, but I just want to understand, who's funding it.
everybody in the
money-
community. The
money that
Winter
we're
Park
giving-
funds it, Granby funds it, the county funds it. It's essential.
Okay, no, that's good. I just don't know that. I don't know how much everyone's kicking in, and we shouldn't be supporting or subsidizing kids from everywhere in the county to go there. just
No,
because
that's,
they-
I mean, are you gonna say that somebody going to Canberra Brewery, if they don't live in Fraser, we don't, that's,
well, it's not the
it's a
same.
community.
It's not the
It
same
is
as
community.
Daycare.
Yeah, but they can't work if the kids aren't in daycare is the other piece of it too.
So the parents work in Fraser,
Yeah.
they might work at the ski area,
It's
it's
part
critical.
of
You
the
have to have
community.
daycare.
Mhm.
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, who should pay for it? I mean, everyone should sort of pay their fair share. We shouldn't, have the burden of paying, subsidizing the daycare facility.
It's sort of like we all subsidize the school.
Well, that comes up out of tax, we don't have a choice.
Well,
Let's keep it on
Anyway.
the business enhancement grant. Julie brings up a good point of how often can you dip, and there is no rule right now. So again, that's something that we can decide at a later date. I think about the Fraser Valley Distilling, of course. They've gotten a lot of help from the town, but Barry brings a good point that if he gets this, cover for his patio, that it can be open a lot longer and more tax dollars can come into the town. I'm sure the building would look nice with it on there. I think it looks nice as it is, but if it makes more usable space, is that a big benefit to town? Could we see a $25,000 investment turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax revenue eventually? So that's something to consider as well.
Well, as long as you brought up that one, I mean, looking at that plan set, that's a structural addition to a building. That's not what is described. I Googled every little phrase and cornice and awning and stuff like that. That is a structural addition to a building. That is not a facade. That's not that kind of stuff.
That's still an
But
exterior improvement.
I was gonna say, do we want to discourage that though? I mean,
Yeah.
if Camber decided
But
they
I'm in
wanted to build a second story,
We're estimating
Not
he's getting
discouraging
50
it,
grand
we're
a
just
year in
saying
a
it's their
economic
responsibility.
incentive. That is so you can reinvest it in your business and be. So I see that mechanism's already in place. He's getting 50 grand to stay sustainable and reinvest in his business. I mean, going back to the workshop idea, I wonder how many employees are at 100% AMI. Yeah, non-family members in any business. Are we just perpetuating a problem that we're gonna now have to create more housing and again, we just keep. This isn't sustainable in my mind. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that's exactly what those economic incentives are for. And as long as those are, and again, this is a workshop idea, but I have fundamental problems with a few of these applications. And to be honest, if we're going to make all these exceptions, I don't know why we denied Simple Coffee. It's a small grant ask. Yeah, it's inside, but I don't see it. I'm like, either we approve all nine or I vote for nothing. Is kind of where I'm at right now, because I see these as arbitrary and we're pushing them through. And again, my opening spiel was about transparency and total and being, good, transparent stewards of our dollars and
I think we need to follow what the rules we set in place. I don't feel like we can
that's
change them
what I'm
right
saying.
now.
Yeah,
And interior has been excluded.
well, I think structural additions, I think.
That structural
work
addition is
already
gonna,
completed, I think appliances, those are all excluded as well.
the structural addition to the Fraser Valley Distilling is going to increase his capacity there and
Can
increase
Brian
sales
get a
and taxes.
fourth row in his van? I mean,
it's interior.
open the window. But you know what I'm saying?
I think it's
I
gonna,
see
it's
this
a
is
great,
so I think it's arbitrary and capricious right now, and I'm having trouble with these recommendations.
I think that was the point, to make it pretty open-ended, to get a bunch of applications. And it's nice to see people want to invest in their business and improve it.
No, they want us to invest in it.
They're doing half. I mean, except for grandkids, they're half.
And yeah, grandkids is the one I would like to fund, but I think a nonprofit is in a different pool. We have the donor. I'm sorry. We have the donor managed funds for the nonprofit world. And I think we're learning a lot from this experience. Maybe next year, if there's a $75,000 ask, we'll ask better questions and do better. But I don't know. I don't like proceeding when I think I don't know. I think we're making things squares fit into a round hole and calling it good. And I think we need to be
Would it be
as strict as possible.
would it be helpful if we bring the eligibility criteria up on the screen just so we can look
Yeah,
at
I
it?
think that's fine. I don't think we need to be as strict as possible. I think is it's improving the businesses in this area. I think if we get too confined with these rules, we're gonna miss some opportunities. So I just disagree.
I mean, I agree with Adam. I think we need to flesh this out more and having a workshop or whatever and really kind of define the criteria a little bit better that we're comfortable with and not just subsidizing businesses that know that they should be responsible for, improvements, especially if they're getting incentives already. If we've given them a lot of money and they have incentives, I just don't,
Why are we even doing this program then? I mean,
it's a good question.
well, I mean, you don't feel
Why
like
are we?
this is even valuable, where I feel like it's a huge part of the community to help increase the look of our downtown and our businesses in the area.
I mean, I think if it, like Brian said, the curb appeal and, increasing sales tax, those are important things, but some of these things I think should be the responsibility of the business if they want to do it and not the towns.
Well, that would have been a great discussion, I guess, back in the fall when we decided to increase the budget for this. You know? We're kind of trying to backstep on this, and I don't think we should. We agreed to this project, and I think we need to consider these applications tonight, make a decision.
I agree with Julie. I think, we can tweak this. We tweaked it in September. We can tweak it again, have it a workshop. None of these are, crazy out of line numbers that, give me huge amount of pause. I think, we can, I think the board or the group that put together weeded out some of the things that are obvious that we would not approve because that didn't fit within the criteria that we just started in. So, I'd like to move forward tonight with making a decision. I think time is of the essence because construction season is small and we could drag this thing out until June and miss a huge window. And then you've got the deals with, oh my God, I didn't get the project done and now it's the end of the year and all of those issues. So I'd like to see us be proactive.
Would it be the pleasure of the board to go through these one by one, have the discussion, do the review, and make a decision and kind of move along?
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't know if you want to take any more comments, but I do see that Ashley has her hand up.
Okay.
I defer to you, Mayor Sirkvenick.
All right. Make it quick, guys. We got 3 hands up and we got to keep this moving. Ashley, you're up first.
Ashley, are you able to speak? You should be unmuted. Ashley, can you speak?
Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can now.
Can you hear me? I will say Barry total. So I don't want to deny him his opportunity. But again, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to present. And I understand everything you guys are going for. And we would not have requested these funds, hearing your discussions and nonprofits and everything. But we applied because we were missing so many pieces.
We lost you again, Ash.
Ashley, I think your internet connection's slow,
That
or it could be ours.
Yeah, you're breaking up. We're getting like every 10th
sounds
word.
about right for Fraser. Can you hear me now? It sounds about right for Fraser.
Ashley, we'll come back to you. Let's have Steph go.
Barry's unmuted.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Okay, couple things. If we look at your criteria, one of the things is an awning. We and our architects went to Tom Hawkinson with the idea of putting up an awning. And he said because of snow loads, we are not allowed to put up an awning. It has to be 100% structural steel to handle the pound per square foot of the snow that'll fall in it. So this is in place of an awning, and unfortunately for us, it's much more expensive. Second, you all came up with the criteria, and everybody in this group has proposed things that fit that criteria, and everybody's paying for a minimum 50%. In our case, it's like 70, 80%. I can't remember the numbers. And then finally, I didn't present this to you, but this adds 35 seats to our building. And if we just fill those seats twice a day, let's say 50% of the days, the additional sales tax will probably pay for your share of it in, I think, 3 to 4 years. But most important, as the mayor pointed out, if you drive by and with our building and other buildings, you see people outside. And if you ever come by our building, when the weather's good enough to sit outside without a roof, it is just full of people. We're one of the few dog-friendly places. It just makes a huge difference in just the whole aura of the town. When you drive down 40 and you see all these businesses with people sitting outside, in the case of having our roof with heaters, even in the winter, it'll just build up our commercial base to an extent that will help us survive the onslaught that the resort and the town of Winter Park are collaborating on. So I'll leave it there. But it's if I could do an awning, it would cost half as much. But we met with Tom Hawkins and he said absolutely not. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Stephanie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in response to the comment about businesses not just being subsidizing or not just being subsidized by the town for improvements, when I put the employee housing in upstairs, that was about $125,000. And then as they required me to pave that lot. And so, yes, I did receive a $7,500 enhancement grant that I used towards that. But that total project just for the paving was 60,000. So yes, I received 7,500, but it was nowhere near half of that project. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley, are you in a better spot?
She said she should have better.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay. I'm so sorry for the issues. Again, I appreciate you guys considering us. I just want to speak to the question of Fraser residents. We are the only nonprofit childcare center in Fraser Valley. The elementary school, preschool is the only other entity. And I did hear you guys saying if Fraser came to you, that would be a consideration. But two, like we just are trying so hard to keep our rates affordable for our families, but also retain our high quality teachers, which is what Trustee Julie spoke to with our grant. And that is where we're finding a hard balance. And so just these outside enhancements will add so much to not only our curb appeal, but also the enhancement of Fraser. And being so close to the tennis courts and the elementary school, we get so much traffic day to day. And we want to continue to publicize Fraser and all of the wonderful things that we have. And we do prioritize most of our enrollment is from the Fraser Winter Park area, but we also, accommodate any family and that is in need and is on our wait list. But again, we did just do an overhaul on our wait list and reconfirmed that we have 90 kiddos on our wait list. We still are outstanding, probably 50 people that had been on our wait list that haven't applied. So the need is still great in our county, and anything you guys can do to support, we appreciate. And understand all the things that you are saying. But again, thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Ashley. Okay, back to the board. Why don't we just run down the projects and let's talk through them. Holiday Inn Express, recommended award 8109, gazebo and fire pit area. Who wants to
I mean,
open?
I like this one because it's pretty visible.
Very visible.
And they currently do have like a grill and a fire pit,
Yeah.
right? So they're just improving that.
There's just
That's
some
where it'll
junctions
go.
out there, I think.
There's
no-
It,
There's no
There's no
structure.
it doesn't look the nicest, I don't think, right now, and this would make it look
Yeah.
nice.
I rarely see people out there.
It's next to the HTA visitor center.
Right,
Yeah.
which is a good point. Also, just as a point of clarification, the Holiday Inn Express is like a franchise. It's like a human being owns it. I don't know if they're local here or what, but it's not corporate Holiday Inn. So that made a difference to me.
It's an individual, I believe. Well, at the time, he had like 6.
Yeah, the LC, they're out of Aurora.
Yeah.
They have a Fraser PO box.
Yeah, I asked the applicant, I guess there's 3 owners. And it is a hotel group, but
I think it's a great amenity. I just stayed in a hotel in Carbondale that had an outdoor picnic area, and we sat out there in the middle of March. It was, it was great, so I think it's.
Is it open to the public?
They
No, I
said-
don't
they have
think there's
said
gonna
the
be any
trail
public.
would be, and then it'd be available for a day use fee. I think it was like $25.
I mean, it's kind
I'm
of like
not
going to a,
sure where it is. Is it out front?
here's the
Yeah,
picture.
it's right along
I
Highway
mean,
40.
they're kind of best we could there.
It's true. Might take it. Okay, so we're feeling good about that one?
I'm not.
Okay,
Is it gonna be a gas fire pit?
it would have to be.
Yes,
have to be.
yes.
I mean, it's a hotel group.
Yeah.
Can't they afford it? Why should we subsidize that?
I mean,
It's a
this is
business.
the business.
It's a business and
It's not open to the public. It's not open to,
Well, neither is like the distillery. You can't just go in there and sit down and have a sandwich that you brought. You gotta be a patron of the business to enjoy.
that's a restaurant. I mean, you have to buy something. They're not just gonna let you hang out there.
It's the
right,
same with
same with the
the
hotel. I don't know. I see a nice looking gazebo and people hanging out under it in the summertime that will bring more people past Safeway. So I think, again, we're trying to get more sales tax dollars in Fraser. We're trying to improve the curb appeal. I
So
think
should we
it
do a thumbs up?
Yeah, I think we do kind of a loose thumbs up. Maybe you keep a tally of what we like and what we want to change, and then we'll come together with a motion
The end.
at the end. Yeah.
That approves them. So, can we do the resolution in a way that we have, if you vote and, you have a majority for each individual one, how you guys want to do it, that can just be how it is in the resolution. It's just gonna be,
It's like a slate,
you're ultimately either approving these,
or we're adjusting the price.
because I would not encourage the resolution that you're just approving, because you're approving all the requests, but the resolution will reflect these individual votes. So if it doesn't pass, then it won't be added to the resolution or be removed from.
Yeah, we can edit the resolution as appropriate for any changes you want to see.
It would be majority because we have quorum. So it's just 3 votes is all it takes for tonight.
Okay.
All right. So Holiday Inn Express is in the yes category at the full 8109. Camber Brewing Company, recommendation is 5,500. Of course, they asked for 20,500. I shouldn't.
Did
move
you
Lex
want to
into that.
do the vote on Holiday Inn first and do the votes on each individual one?
I think we were.
Oh,
Yeah.
we
Let's just
didn't
do a quick
officially
thumbs
do
up
it.
on Holiday Inn.
Let's see.
1, 2, 3,
We got
4.
3, yeah, 4. Okay. All right, Camber Brewing Company. Recommendation was 5,500. request was 20,500. Not included was the water heater replacement.
Should we do some?
I mean, I would add in,
We can.
I think you almost need to.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back to simple coffee quick. It was deemed by the committee that it's not eligible because it's an interior improvement. Would everybody agree that it is not eligible?
Correct.
Okay. All right, going back to Camber. Let's discuss
Kind
this.
of one question around, so you rank these on a scale of 1 to 5 for public benefit. Is that, those your criteria? It looks like they're almost all threes. So
I will say the ranking was very, for lack of a better word, loose. Because we had enough money to fund all eligible projects, the committee really focused on eligibility and then determining if somebody could receive a reduced match. Reduced match required maximum public benefit. So the two projects that the committee deemed falling into that category, which if we did have a more competitive process, I had developed kind of a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being maximum public benefit. You would need a 4 or 5 to be considered for a reduced match. We saw the mural falling into that, whether you're a patron of Camber or not, you see that mural when you come into town. But we have since kind of kicked that to PAC, and PAC's going to take that project on. And then grandkids. So the rankings don't really go further than
Okay.
that. We gave everybody else a 3 as being eligible in
three
terms of
is still
increasing
passed.
curb appeal.
all right.
So what are we thinking about Camber? Obviously a big part of that ask was the mural. That's going to be taken on by the PAC. So
we want to talk about the tankless water heater.
yeah.
And is that part of the ADA?
And that was not included, right?
Correct.
Right. And if I remember correctly, they had budgeted 2,000 for the water heater.
It says 3,000 on here,
Okay, thank you.
on this breakdown they have.
Get a special sheet, regular one. $3,000.
Yeah, but if it takes up more space, then it doesn't solve your
Well,
ADA
that's
problem.
I mean,
There's a lot of options for different shapes at $3,000 for hot water. That could accommodate the situation.
So you've only included in this section that we're looking at here, Sarah, things that are included.
Correct.
That the committee
Yeah,
did
this is the
approve.
resolution. So these were items
Everything that
they-
was ineligible is not included in this current list right here.
Yeah, so if you wanted to include the water heater, and I did ask Nick, I'm like, well, what's the difference in price between the standard and the tankless? And he said they're about the same. So
Kind of what you want to.
Yeah.
right
That's true. Where is the concrete ADA ramp, in front or in back?
in the back to the patio.
Okay. Kind of nice if you could fit on the front. I don't know. Yeah. And there's 2 steps, right?
Yeah.
That'd be tough. Okay. Awning roof replacement seems like it would be very expensive.
So there's a photo of it in there. He's got the little overhang, and it's just replacing like the metal on that overhang.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I mean, that'll be a very nice improvement visually.
And these, the cost, I mean, I took them at what they provided. Some folks did have kind of formal estimates, others had more looser estimates, but they do have to provide receipts, and we would only cover, half of that cost.
The businesses, the appearance is really turned around. I think it looks really good from the street.
Yeah. I kind of think the awning is the final thing. So I don't know. What do you guys? Are you guys for it? Do you like the 5,500?
I'm for it.
I think it sounds reasonable. It is kind of in the center of things, and it's
Yeah.
That would improve the curb appeal. Seemed like that might be a reasonable thing to fund. And
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Did you want to leave the water heater off, or?
Kind of fine to leave it off.
Because I think for that dollar amount, you can find something that fits.
Okay, next up, Solstice Bistro requested 2,000, recommended amount was 1,555. Banners and artwork and channel letters for building facade. Is that permanent or is that?
That is my understanding.
Oh, $300 of their estimate. The channel letters, I don't know what that means.
That's pretty cheap if it's permanent.
It's the second one on there. They're the, like the barbecue caboose.
Oh,
It's the
barbecue,
second one,
okay.
the signage job. Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of money for what they're asking for, but
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't feel very permanent. I don't know. I think these improvements should be
This
pretty.
is a marketing campaign.
Yeah, yeah.
Facade.
So like I could see,
The public improvements nil, or public benefits nil.
right.
But some table and chairs and umbrellas, I mean,
yes.
that would really attract people over there.
Yeah, 2 patio tables with umbrellas, I think fits.
And Wendy's saying channel sign is like a sign where you can move the letters in and out, so you can change what the wording says, but the sign itself is permanent.
Thank you.
Got it.
Yeah, and I talked to Sue at Solstice Bistro because her application had a lot in it, and I wasn't entirely understanding the entire vision. So she did have some stuff in there that was geared more towards catering, which we deemed ineligible, and brochures and things like that, and tried to again focus on the things on the building. And my understanding from her was the reason to have the banners and the pole was that they didn't have an option for a physical sign in the ground kind of thing. But she also focused on, they were previously based, I believe, out of Wild Horse, and that she said they've kind of struggled with people understanding that they still exist and are here in Fraser. So it is kind of a rebranding to a Fraser presence, as she explained it.
Okay.
I'm just trying to increase visibility.
I don't know. My opinion is let's pay for half of 2 patio tables and with umbrellas. Call it good. What do you guys think?
Well, that's
I
Their
think
business logo on the umbrellas.
Yeah, there you go.
Maximum.
Yeah.
I think I like that because I think the banner thing, we've got to have an overall understanding what we're doing with the town.
Right.
Pull out the banners.
Right. So do we know what 50% of the 2 patio tables and with umbrellas are?
Yeah,
1,200 is what they have on their
that's
quote.
what I have in my head. Yeah.
For the whole?
That's
both
it.
sides. 1,200
Patio
would be
tables
the-
and logo printed umbrellas, 1,200.
Okay, so 600.
What about the?
I'm okay. It's not a lot of money. I don't
Right.
think we should, dissect this thing too much.
Well, we've gone down that path, so.
Did you want the vinyl sign on backlighted glass, which she said would be on the building?
Backlit glass sign?
That's the $400 artwork and logo design and signage. Is that what that is?
Let me see. I said it's the.
Seeing that in their budget outline.
I've got it as 600.
But that's artwork design for logo, brochures.
Just above there, that horse, the oval horse,
Yeah.
says Wild Horse Catering logo vinyl sign on backlit
Oh, got it.
glass.
Yeah, I mean, that's signage. It's, I don't know. It's,
I'm okay with that.
it's
$300.
semi
So that
permanent
gets
at
you to
least.
1,500.
Don't ask me.
And you said that was how much, Julie?
600?
600. So half of it would be 300.
Right.
900.
I'm fine with that. You guys fine with it?
Thumbs up or
I
down?
would- I'm fine with the whole thing. It's not very much money.
Okay. All right. Colorado Corn Dog Company. They asked for 76.25. 50% would be 42.50. Is that right?
That was the 8,500 was what was considered,
Eligible.
yes.
Got it.
Sorry, I'm realizing I wrote this wrong on the resolution. The first column. No, I switched their numbers. So yeah, their project amount for what was deemed eligible was 8,500 and the award amount should say 4250.
Yep, you got it right. And on what I'm looking at.
Is this visible from the road from 40?
It's in between the winery and the distillery, basically.
I think I've seen it in another location.
Yeah.
but-
Live right down that.
Yeah, if you're on Railroad Ave, you can see it, right?
Can you see it?
I don't know. It's one of those things. Food trucks can be an eyesore, or they can be kind of cool. So I'm.
And they've got signage off of the railroad too, so anybody that's on the road or the bus stop or the Amtrak, see it.
Mhm. I'm good with that one.
What do you think?
On the condition of our logo.
Yeah,
Would you like
I
the
do
logo?
think the logo needs to be smaller than their logo.
Yeah.
Well, it needs to be readable. And I don't mind it being on the back.
Yeah.
Because that's whoever's following.
Yeah.
To me, that's.
Michael had the idea of having the Explore Fraser on there, so it's kind of our website.
Do explorefraser.com and then like just a little logo next to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it just needs I mean, we need to get benefit from it as well, being it's mobile.
I think they're okay with that.
I think
all right.
I have a problem with it being mobile and not a fixed structure in town. And that kind of opens the door. I mean, we talk about criteria later on. That may be something we say they're ineligible because they're not a fixed structure and they can take off at any time, right?
What if they have like a 5-year lease?
Well,
you know?
could we put some requirement on they have to be in Fraser X amount of time of the year or something,
Yeah.
or
Certain percentage. of the year?
90%? I don't know what it is, but
Who's
It-
enforcing?
there,
Right.
there's nothing that prohibits him from taking off and going somewhere else, right?
Sure. We've watched a lot of food trucks leave Fraser, so it's understandable.
Yeah.
They've moved around.
Mhm.
They move around.
And I'm in agreement, and that's where I was trying to brainstorm a solution on how to, even if they leave, he's gotta pay $8,000 to get rid of the Fraser logo.
Right.
So that's kind of where I
Or,
saw it
you know,
as a compromise
Yeah.
that I could live
Or
with.
prorate it, if they're here for, X 2 years or 3 years, and then it's forgiven. But if they leave in 6 months, they're gonna have to pay X amount back. I don't know.
I think these are all good things for the workshop
Mhm.
and define this even further. But as for tonight, are we good with Colorado Corn Dog and Burger Company doing the wrap
With a logo.
with the logo?
Mhm.
With a logo.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on to Grandkids Learning Center. Ask was 10,547. The eligible 11,500. So the committee elected for 8,625.
And are we okay with 25% matching instead of 50 on this one, I guess?
Yes.
Since
It's our
they are
only
a
five.
essential
What'd you
amenity,
say?
I'm just,
It's our only five.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I just want to make sure we are all okay with that.
How did you determine that it wasn't 15,048? That it was 11,500?
They requested money for interior paint as well that we deemed ineligible. And I want to say that was like 4,000-ish.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm okay.
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 Yeah, well, we don't have much definition, so I guess.
All right. All right. Fraser Valley Distilling request was 25K. Committee agreed with the 25K. It's an $82,000 project overall. What are people's thoughts?
I got a question.
Sure.
Looking through ineligible projects, it says expansion. Is this not an expansion?
Not an interior expansion,
It doesn't say interior, it just says expansion.
or interior is the excluded piece.
And it says patios are covered.
It says patios are covered where?
Like,
Included.
Like
are-
patios are included, or one of the exterior improvements that are included.
Sarah, where do the ineligible projects criteria come from?
They're pretty much what's been there since I've been here. So,
'Cause they're not on the website.
I'm still of the opinion.
no, they are. You scroll down lower.
To a building that's under incentive.
And therefore the funding is built in.
Fair
And
thought.
those remain, if I remember correctly, I don't think any changes were made. There might have been one clarification added in there, but those were the ineligible projects before last September when we made some other updates.
One, two, three, I just think it's
3-2.
several reasons why.
Passes, yes. Okay, Moose and Merchant. Ask 9845. Committee approved 9845. This is a business that is not open yet, that is framed at this point.
Conditional
Yeah,
on.
I mean, if we
business
approve-
License.
yeah.
We approved the previous one, I think we have to approve this one as long as they're in business.
Mm-hmm.
They could contingent on whenever they open.
Agreed.
Mhm.
This one gives me the most pause, I think, because it's not a business yet. It should be part of the cost of opening your business,
Are
but
they getting the business incentive package?
Mhm.
they're probably going to ask for one. I don't think they've asked for one yet.
No, not yet. We haven't received anything from them yet, right?
No.
The startup costs for a business are a lot.
Yeah, and I mean they're building a building from scratch,
Yeah.
so I get it. It's not unreasonable for them to ask. It's just they're not even a business yet, and should they have budgeted for this? You know?
I mean, if you were.
That sounds like our question.
Yeah.
I would apply for it if I had the opportunity.
This will be a good one.
Right.
Stop.
This
I mean,
When does it
grant
become the
exists.
town's responsibility, right?
Yeah, that's the question.
I mean, I'll share for what it's worth. My initial inclination was they're not eligible. And then I was like, well, I mean, does it make sense that we make them wait a year and not have a patio and then they can apply?
When is?
And I don't know what the
construction gonna
answer
be
to
done?
that. They're expected to be open in May or have occupancy in May is my understanding.
So they would be here for the summer. I mean, if they were gonna open in October, I'd say let's wait a year.
So, we're not exhausting all of our funds here. Why don't we put them on hold and ask them to come back when they get a business license? When they're legitimate and eligible, and this isn't, I mean, this is just a deadline, and if we have excess, it's available later.
I'd say the only issue to that is they're either going to do it this summer or they're not, or they're going to wait a year, I guess. But like they have construction people there now
to do the work.
to do the work, right?
It's the cart before the horse, and you've already said you think it's their responsibility.
Right.
So I think either
mean,
they wait till they're eligible or
Mhm.
they take it on themselves.
I think we should approve it conditional upon their business license. I mean, whether they go in there or not, it's still gonna be there for another business.
Well, you're giving money away left and right. I think, it makes sense when they're building it, they might as well do it then. If you make them come back and do it later, it's gonna be more expensive and it probably won't get done until, fall or winter. I don't know.
Right.
Why don't they just get a business license tomorrow?
So you gotta
They
pay.
could do that.
I'm okay.
I mean, it's $40.
Yeah, right.
Make yourself eligible.
I think conditional upon business license.
Yeah, which could be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Well,
And it doesn't need to come back to us. I just, if they get it, great.
they can't get a business license until they get a CO, right? Or-
They're independent.
Business cycle runs June 1st to May 31st, so people that are hoping to open a business close to that time frame, I tell them, if you get one now, you're gonna have to get another one in a few months. So I tell people, you might as well wait until closer to your opening date, so you don't have to get 2 business licenses. One that's, you may not even be able to use until you open,
So it's not prorated.
you know, prorate it.
And again, I think $40 to be eligible for
It's not that much. money.
$9,000. It's cost of doing business. You gotta get 2 licenses this year, sorry.
How much is it?
Yeah, it's a registry, it's not a big deal. But every Fraser business is.
Can they get it in June, or do you guys want it to get it now?
I think for $40, I mean, the whole thing is.
I mean, they're
it's
buying
the
that
purpose,
building.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
just approve it.
Yeah. I will say this, in the camp of voting yes, if a business opened in an existing building and wanted to do immediate outdoor improvements, we would probably not even question it. I think the question is, it's a brand new building, why aren't you just throwing this in with your costs? But if it was the other side of the coin, if it was an old existing building, we'd probably say yes. So for that reason.
Probably still say buy business license.
Yeah, yeah.
Submit your application.
All right. With a business license.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. And black tie ski rental. I think this is like the most straightforward one. All right. Are we good with that one?
Yeah, why didn't y'all give them a 5?
Yeah.
We'll
Would you like to lobby for that?
give them a 4, how about that? Just seems real arbitrary the way y'all assign those.
For each number.
So am I correct that everything is the same except for solstice? Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution with the change to solstice's funding match.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-03-09, approval of business enhancement grant program awards as modified.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So are each of these going to reflect a vote on, or is it all rolled into one motion and vote?
It's a slate resolution.
What?
So it's all of them in one resolution.
We just kind of voted with our
That's
thumbs up,
why,
thumbs down.
that's why we did the individual vote,
That's what we
because
did.
that shapes the resolution. If there were any like majority down thumbs votes, then they're removed from the resolution.
So if I voted against some of them, I still am voting for the resolution.
It's up to you.
Okay.
So yeah, if you don't agree with the slate, then you should vote no.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
No.
All right, one nay, and 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes. Motion passes. Thanks for everybody who applied. That was a good exercise, and there will be more.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's a good exercise.
Schedule a workshop.
All right, we'll
We'll
define
vote
this
yes
further
again.
in the future. Okay, moving on to revised Downtown Development Authority budget. Sarah.
All right, got to remember what I was going to talk about for this one now. So the DDA has a revised budget. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and I will do my best to explain how we landed here. So back in 2024, you approved the budget that was proposed by the DDA for their budget. We had based that budget off of the belief that we were going to receive 64,000 and change in tax increment revenues. This was based on the county assessor's office evaluation and their estimate of what we would get. That number has been reduced down to 36,900, so it is significantly less than what we expected. My understanding and multiple conversations with their office, as well as talking with Troy Bernberg, who's been providing kind of financial consulting services for the DDA, is that it has to do with a particular parcel. Let me show this. This might help explain. So Debbie Griffin, who's been working with the county assessor's office specific to kind of the DDA, as she explains it, kind of looks at all the different mill levies that exist within the DDA, and she's looking at a global level. She assigned those mill levies to all the various parcels within the DDA, but it turns out the largest mill levy that she was working with was for this West Meadow Metro District, which has a 0.052 mill levy. So it is a good bit more than the other mill levies. It turns out that that mill levy applies to one mystery parcel. And so instead of the estimated, it was 30,000 that mill levy was going to bring in, it actually brought in $88.
So that I bet is Grand Park, West Meadow,
Mhm.
Metro
Yeah,
District.
So it's related to West Meadow, and I had a moment of panic. So I was like, we specifically excluded West Meadow and any of Mr. Lipscomb's properties per his request. We have gone back and forth, and this parcel is not an actual property, but it has a tax account for a public utility. So there's various tax areas that exist. Each of the tax areas has the same tax account, and it has to do with Excel gas lines. We have asked if we can just remove this from the DDA calculation. We have been told we can't. But in the future, we will just not look at it when those estimates are being made, and then that gives us a pretty accurate number. The other number that was off is there's a few parcels down there that are part of the Winter Park Ranch Water and Sanitation District. So again, that mill levy, looking at it at a global level, she was applying that to all parcels. And so it would have been close to $5,000, but it really the mill levy only applies to a few parcels around that kind of Cousins Ranch open space area. So that is why the number is off. So we had to come back with a revised budget based on the actual numbers, and moving forward with this information. I mean, she was saying she was going to have to go into each individual tax account. I think the easier solution is just removing that mill levy, and then that number gets us pretty close. So the DDA has passed a resolution in support of this budget, revised budget. We basically lowered monetary amounts for different amounts because it is a small number, and with the idea that for the DDA to really have an impact, they need more cash to be working with. So it's a balance right now of trying to kind of maybe preserve some of that money so that they get a critical cash amount that they could do a larger project with, but also recognizing that, taxpayers have voted for this, and seeing that the DDA have an impact and have a presence in the community, while also knowing that the reality is it's a bit of a waiting game for that increment to come in before they really have, significant funds to work with. So the revised budget does bring down professional services. We think some of these numbers are still high. 10,000 right now. We're working with Troy. I don't think his bill is going to be anywhere close to that. We could still bring in potentially, DCI or some other professionals to do trainings and that sort of thing. But we wanted to keep some flexibility in a higher number there in case we were approached, say, by a developer that wanted to strike a deal with the DDA in terms of a long-term investment, and we would need to be able to pay for professional services to review that potential contract or relationship. So district enhancements, we tried to keep as high as possible. So that's at 20,000. Community outreach, and then a little bit of money for miscellaneous expenses. So it does leave a fairly small kind of leftover amount in committed reserves. Our financial consultant has recommended that it's okay to have a fairly small number now while their overall number is pretty small, and that our administrative expenses on the early end are going to be higher as a percentage than they will be once there's more money to play with in there. And then we would want to have larger reserves and a lower percentage of administrative kind of expenses related to the DDA. So related to this budget, there are two resolutions that have the fancy language required by DOLA in relation to what we need to provide to DOLA and have on record in terms of approval of the budget. So that's what those two resolutions are. I'll also just provide a quick update on what the DDA has been working on before we look at those resolutions. So they kind of finished out in January working on an investment and financial policy document that kind of outlines the general guidelines for how the DDA will look at future possible investments of tax increment financing. In February, they held a DDA coffee hour at Simple Coffee. Mayor Sirk-Benick joined us for that. The plan is to have a few of those types of events throughout the year, just as kind of networking opportunities with local businesses, getting people talking, bringing them into the conversation, providing a platform for them to kind of interact and provide feedback to the DDA and just get to know the different business owners and leaders. The DDA worked on putting together the ski ride and save promo. So if you have not seen that yet, just show you real quick. It's on the Explore Fraser website, and we've worked to kind of push it out on social media, but hope to be in a better position to start it earlier and promote it more next year. But the idea is, as we came to learn that the mountain ski rail was going to be stopping in Fraser, trying to provide incentives for people to ride the train and actually spend some time in Fraser and visit local businesses. So there was a number of businesses that signed on to providing different deals that they could get just by showing their ski train or their Amtrak ticket. They worked on promoting the business enhancement grants and participating in the review of those, and then we have revised our budget. So that's where they are at, and their next meeting will be the second Tuesday in April. So any of you are welcome to join those meetings as well. They're at 9 a.m. Tuesday mornings here in Town Hall.
Thanks, sir. So there are two resolutions that need to be
Just a
approved.
question, Sarah.
Yeah.
What's your projection revenue for next year? I mean, what's coming online? Do you have any idea of what your revenues may be?
It'll probably be pretty similar. The Storm townhomes and then the coffee shop will add a little bit of increment there. But really it's kind of as Clayton Court develops and there's other infill or redevelopment, we should see more increment coming in.
So that Moose and Merchant,
Mm-hmm.
anything
There you
else?
go. We're
The
getting-
townhomes
we're
behind
getting
it.
property tax from our patio.
Valuations will go up with
No, we're
projects.
Right.
property tax or what?
I'm just,
Sales tax.
well,
DDA.
the
Your
the
property tax,
DDA
too.
the DDA is based off of property tax.
Right. I just wonder what else is.
That's it.
But that's
Yeah.
part of the benefit too of the business enhancement grant is that you make these exterior improvements, the valuation could actually cause the valuation of the property to go up, and therefore the property tax will actually go up as well.
All right, so we got two resolutions.
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to approve 2025-03-10, appropriating sums of money to Fraser. And the second one is Resolution 2025-03-11, summarizing and adopting the DDA budget.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thanks. All right, you get to stay up there, Sarah. Resolution 2025-03-12, authorizing application for congressionally directed spending for St. Louis Landing and Early Childhood Education Center.
All right. Because we love going after money, we are looking at your discretion to apply for congressionally directed spending towards future phases of St. Louis Landing. So last year, the executive director of the Department of Housing actually reached out to see if we were planning to apply for congressionally directed spending towards St. Louis Landing. At the time, we declined in part based on timing and how the funding would work, but also the Fraser Valley Arts Center had asked us to support their application for the Fraser Center for the Arts, and we had already committed to providing that support. So this year we told them we would look at applying this year and that the timing might work out in terms of subsequent phases. So in talking with myself and Michael and MAD, Mountain Affordable Housing Development, on what would make the most sense for that congressionally directed spending, we would like to see if we could get money towards the ownership phase with the townhomes, and then with the idea that they could break ground next year. So there's obviously a lot to be determined between now and then. We're applying for funding. I think it makes sense to go after any possible large pots of funding like this. That said, with the current administration, I am somewhat skeptical that there will be congressionally directed spending next year, and the timing is dependent on when the budget is approved. So we would be applying for fiscal year 2026 funding. That budget is generally presented for approval, I believe, in October, if I'm remembering correctly. And then if it were actually approved and signed by the president at that time, it would then take some months to go under contract. And you have to actually go through the grant process with whatever agency your congressionally directed spending is attached to. They typically do not actually, I would say typically, they do not always approve the budget in October when it's presented. So this current fiscal year's budget still has not been approved. They just passed the stopgap measure to kind of keep the government open until I believe it is September. So anybody who applied for congressionally directed spending and was recommended and approved for it is still waiting for that money from last year's cycle. So there's a lot of unknowns on our end. There's a lot of unknowns in congressionally directed spending. Applying for the funds does not specifically commit us to moving forward with any course of action. But the idea is that we would see if we could get some money to help subsidize ownership of the townhomes, knowing that to provide ownership opportunities will involve a good deal of subsidy at the current cost of construction and financing and everything else.
Through Michael Bennett.
So there's a joint application through Michael Bennett's office and through Senator Hickenlooper's office. Yeah, so you fill out a fancy Google form, they review them, and then they determine who they want to recommend for funding, and then Congress would actually have to approve those recommendations. So,
Adam, can you speak into the microphone, please?
I was going to say, I have a friend that's worked for Michael Bennett for about 15 years. I don't know if that kind of channel.
No, that would be great. Because honestly, I've talked with Hickenlooper's office, but it would be beneficial to talk to Senator Bennett's office as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll talk.
I'll reach out to my friend.
That'd be
It's been
great.
A little bit.
I think Elon's going to put the kibosh on this.
So this resolution is just authorizing staff to apply for congressionally directed spending, and it says required matching fund amounts once determined by the CDS process we brought back to the board for final board approval. I feel like it's a little opaque what the matching funds are for the different congressionally directed spending, but the information that I am seeing is that there may not be any required matching funds for the particular pot of money that this project would come from. That said, there may be a gap to fill once we work out the final budget and everything else.
Nothing more than anything else we haven't gone after for grants.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to apply.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2025-03-12 for application congressionally directed spending, St. Louis Landing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Colorado River Basin Roundtable appointment. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael Brack, Fraser Sound Manager. What's before you here tonight is a recommendation for an appointment to the Colorado River Basin Roundtable. This is a collaborative body that was established following the adoption of the Colorado Water for the 21st Century Act. Primary responsibilities for being a member of the Colorado River Basin Roundtable include participating in regular meetings to discuss and address water-related issues within the Colorado Basin. And this is for the upper Colorado Basin and the lower Colorado Basin. Reviewing and providing input on water project funding applications through the Colorado Water Conservation Board grant programs. Collaborating with diverse stakeholders to develop and implement the Colorado Water Plan, providing expertise and local knowledge to guide water policy decisions, and advocating for the interests of Grand County and the municipalities within, and ensuring its concerns are represented in regional water discussions. This has been circulated by the county with some interest, with I think a great deal of interest, and Adam Quicklin as being a recommended appointee to that, based on his experience that he can speak to if you would like to. His resume is also attached to this, 30 years of water experience, water quality, and a lot of these different related issues that would, I think, would be of value to this appointment. So the recommendation from staff is to recommend Adam for this appointment, as will action need to be taken by all the other municipalities, which I've already disseminated this staff briefing and resolution to. I'm sorry, is this a resolution? It's a motion. I apologize. A motion to appoint and recommend Adam for the appointment for this position. Adam, would you like to speak a few words about it?
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Adam and I live on Fraser Avenue. Actually, this was a kind of a surprise to me. It is actually a very welcome surprise. The Eds, I'll say, approached me, and this seems to be a culmination of about 25 years of my efforts between my earlier career in conservation and to working with the utilities. I think this is an incredible opportunity for me, and I hope I can contribute to the state and the river and our communities. Yeah, I'm actually quite, I don't know, blown away that my name came up for this, and once it was brought up, it's something that I would like to pursue. So,
Great. Any questions for Adam?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Adam to the Colorado River Basin Roundtable.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
We
Thanks, Adam.
barely have a
Thanks, Adam.
quorum, but
I know. Just barely made it.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
I'm going to
me
Huntsville
either.
tomorrow night.
Nice. It's funny. Okay. Appoint.
do we need to just make a note that I recuse myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Appointment to the Winter Park and Fraser Chamber.
All right, so following the discussion that we had at the last board meeting where Catherine Ross presented their 2025 work plan for the Chamber of Commerce, they are ready to take on a Fraser seat from the Fraser Town Board of Trustees. I'd like to have the discussion right now. You know, basically some of the general requirements or commitments, they typically have a chamber meeting every month. In addition to some other events that they have, which are, I think, probably pretty enjoyable, to network and kind of discuss and promote different events and town happenings. So I'll leave it to the board to make a motion to appoint a member of the Board of Trustees, if there is one.
oh,
Who's shown interest? I know Peggy's interested, right?
Okay,
Is anybody else?
I
I
can't.
nominate Peggy.
I second that nomination.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. And it's 8:39.
Yeah,
And we have
good
updates.
job.
Yes, I tried.
Yes,
Okay, updates. Peggy has one.
I have an update. We have to be out of here by 9 o'clock so that we can go home and watch Weathered, the fire, LA Firestorm. My son was the director of photography, so I hope you guys will all go home and watch it tonight, and hopefully we can combine all the towns to watch it again in a formal setting and discuss how we move forward with adjusting some of our building codes to be more fire wise. So
Is that going to be part of the film festival in the fall?
I don't know if it is. I'm hoping it is, but you know,
I gave them a few
Seemed like a
quotes
good
on
one.
Fire and ice.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
Fire.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. Anybody else updates?
It reminded me when Ashley was talking that the reception through Fraser is not great. When you come, I don't know, it's like kind of from the railroad tracks in this downtown area, and I don't know what's causing that interference.
It's terrible. I was at the elementary
cuts
school
off.
and they can't use the internet and late in the afternoon.
You know what? I found when there's a diesel engine sitting outside my place, it messes with
I
my.
mean, what is it?
Is it an antenna? I don't know.
Is
what
it, is it a cellular
Green
service or
Yeah,
what?
it marks like it creates magnetism.
I don't have a problem
I
with
don't
it.
know, but
But this,
It
this
interferes
like
with my internet.
pole in Fraser,
Huh.
it's every day.
Is it cell service?
The train's not parked down here.
No, it's internet,
It's internet.
I mean, cable or,
cable.
So like your Bluetooth connectivity in your car when you're talking on the phone cuts out going through Fraser.
it's weird. I don't have that problem. I don't have that problem.
I have it in Tabernash, but
Aliens are right. I'm not sure.
Oh, Tabernacle.
Adam brought up the good point that the ski train sits over here now. So in the afternoon it fires up and drives through. So that could be why the end of the school day.
What?
Well, that was
School
before
buses?
school, before
Said
ski
diesel
season
messes
started.
with it.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. If we don't have good internet in town, that's not great.
well, with the hospital being built, they dug house a meet me center in it. That's gonna charge all the fiber optic cable for broadband internet
Oh,
here.
interesting.
So, I think they're currently working through an internet service provider for an ISP.
If there's
To work to
funding.
get somebody in who could actually sell that internet to the individual locations and.
Well, they did
Okay.
put
Elon Musk is
fiber
gonna take it
optic
over the
cable
wall and have to
through
get Starlink.
Grand Park along Old Victory. I don't know where it goes.
It's likely gonna attach to the hospital.
Well, no, it comes down, it goes north up Old Victory, because I saw them putting it in a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Mount Parks was working with.
Yeah, Mountain Parks is,
Sarah was gonna provide an update for her grants that she's, recently been awarded.
That the town has recently been awarded. So as you may know, Michael, myself, and Mayor Sirk-Venick made a lovely journey out to Eaton 2 weeks ago to present on the different DOLA grants. So we found out yesterday, we got the official notice that we were awarded 1.5 million through the More Housing Now. So that'll be additional money for infrastructure and different impact development fees for St. Louis Landing. And then we also got 1 million through the EIAF funds provided through DOLA to go towards vertical construction of the childcare facility. So that brings us up to about 6.5 million for infrastructure funding, the 1 million for the childcare center, and then that original grant that was a little over 3 million for the land for St. Louis Landing.
so. That's a question about, so is the childcare facility, is grandkids gonna move into that facility, the new facility?
That has not yet been finalized, but that has been the idea.
And then what's gonna happen to their old facility that we just
They're gonna
funded?
expand.
They're gonna maintain.
They're gonna
I mean, the
maintain
only thing
both of them?
They may
they have-
vacate the one at Wapiti Meadows.
Yes, correct.
Who owns that property?
Wapiti Meadows?
They don't
No, no.
own
I mean, this.
the red one they own,
They own.
and then this one they would lease from the town, but hopefully at a $0 lease.
So they would keep both operational.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also got official notification last Friday that we did receive GOCO funding towards the bike park. So that was for 389,000. So now between committed funds by the town, the rec district, our various grant sources and donations, we do have a little over 900,000. So we are in pretty good position to build the bike park, hopefully in full this summer. We do have an active open lands, rivers and trails application. So we went to their meeting Paul and I went to their meeting this afternoon, and there's 2 more meetings before there's a final determination. There is a question from their legal counsel about whether or not our trails are actually trails in the spirit of the OLRT resolution. So we'll see what happens there, but we're trying to make a case that they very much are.
So Sarah has been with the town for, it'll be 2 years this April 18th. And in that time, based on my rough calculation, she has accumulated about almost $10 million in grants for town.
I'll put my tip jar out after the meeting.
So incredible work, and thank you board for the support for these different grants and the support for these projects. It's been great for staff to have that support and for her to move forward with these applications and get some things done. It's great.
Well, and I would be remiss in getting that acknowledgement and not saying that the day I'm submitting them, I am usually running around to get the last bits and pieces from staff. So, yes. And they have been very supportive in providing that to me. So it's definitely been a team effort, but thank you.
Any more updates?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Thanks, everyone.